Well, welcome to the Stone Roadie podcast. It's the one you don't want to miss. It stars Greg Reed, the Stone Roadie, and Griff, the rocket scientist. Let's not forget Kathy Godsey and all the old friends come along. Lord Willie talking Skynyrd and leaving you with a song. Yeah, Craig talks about fat folks and cigarette smokers too. So if you're fat and like to smoke, he might poke a little fun at you. Yeah, Craig likes telling it like it is, so it's something that you want to know. If your feelings get hurt real easy, you better not watch the show. If your feelings get hurt real easy, you better not watch the show.
Podcast 74. Action. Alrighty then, here we are again. Podcast 74 of the Stone Roadie Show. And welcome once again. My name is Craig Reed, aka the Stone Roadie. And this is my co-host, the rocket scientist, Mr. Griff Martin. And that's a pretty cool song you started out with. Our new theme song here at the beginning of the Stone Roadie Show. And with Griff Martin's new band. What do you call that new band there, Griff?
Well, we were looking for a name. We're kind of hoping that the Stone Roadie fans will help us out with that. You know, send me an email. Go to supportsurvivors.net, and send me your name choice for our band. We were going to call ourselves Assisted Living or the Flim Tones or something like that, you know. But yeah, we're gonna do some kind of like some comical songs, you know. We might sing a song about Joe Biden or something, who knows. But yeah, that guy Bill Major that wrote that song, the guy singing it there in the middle, I didn't know it, but I grew up with that guy. He grew up in my neighborhood, and he sent that song, and I didn't even know who he was, you know. And then come to find out, he knows all the guys that I know. And what I like about him so much is all the bullies that beat me up, he beat them up. So that's why we're pretty good friends. But yeah, that's Bill Major. And Bill Major sent that song to me, and then we just kind of like tweaked it and put a couple more verses in it, you know. So I think it's it's a good description of Craig Reed, you know. Craig likes to talk about fat folk and cigarette smokers too, you know, and if you're fat and you like to smoke, he might poke some fun at you. Well, that's true.
Yeah.
And Craig likes to tell it like it is. It's something you ought to know. And if you get your feelings hurt real easy, you better not watch the show. I had a little something to do with those lyrics, Craig.
But boy, Griff, we sure do get a lot of, I get a lot of calls, and got a lot of positive feedback on the Stone Roadie Show, and it just amazes me. And everybody that calls, I go, you know, what the heck is it about Lynyrd Skynyrd that, you know, like I said before, some bands make music, some bands make history, and it just seems like Lynyrd Skynyrd is one of those bands that just doesn't seem to want to go away, you know. And I don't know what it is, but I don't know, it's kind of unexplainable to people. It's just some kind of mystique about the old band and all the stuff that they did. And you know, it didn't even last 4 years, really. You know, their career, and made kind of an impact on the whole music world, that's for sure.
Well, you know, all those songs that Ronnie wrote, you know, there's not a bad song in there. And so it's also great lyrics that are timeless lyrics. and then the antics that the band had, those characters in the band, each one of them, they're all characters, you know. You had Leon and Alan and Billy Powell and Gary. They're all characters they're all cool personalities, and everybody's grown to love them and like the way they act. And then you throw a plane crash in there, and, you know, then they came back from that plane crash and started the band again. And so it's just a really cool story. I can see why people are intrigued by it. And didn't you say you tried to sell stuff on eBay, like from Foreigner and some of the other bands that you work with, and they don't even care about that stuff? All they care about is the Skynyrd stuff.
Oh God, yeah, I put up an Australia sticker one time from 1978. Really cool sticker, world tour, you know, Australia, really cool sticker. Put it up like normally do for 99 cents. Did not get a bid on it, not one bid.
Yeah.
But, I submitted our financial my financial thing to get this YouTube situation here monetized, and I keep sending in the paperwork, and they keep sending it back telling me it's not filled out properly, that it doesn't match my W-2 form that I've been sending in for the last few years. And they won't tell me what doesn't match. They just tell you to do it all over again. So I just got another one back today. I just sent it back in, and it could be something simple. Instead of saying my whole name, you know, I just put Craig J. Reed. They might want to see Craig Judson Reed on there or whatever, something, you know, whatever. I don't know what doesn't match, but they won't tell me, you know. So I just keep having to resubmit it.
Yeah,
but they tell me until I get it straightened out, they're charging 30% tax, and then when they do get it straightened out, it'll be 24% tax, you know. So it's like either a fourth or a third of everything we do on here goes right off into taxes. And then they send me a W-2 and I have to pay tax on that. So,
well, if we're reeling in 2 or 3 million, you know, what's 600,000 or 700,000, huh? You know?
Oh God, it's crazy. I mean, you can't do anything without getting taxed to death. It's insane. It's time for another tea party.
Yeah, you got that right. I think there's one coming. I got a feeling there's one coming. Although I don't watch the news anymore, because if I did, I'd probably go drown myself in the lake at the end of the road. It's really bad out there. Got some information from some people too, Craig. They were saying there's people that are sponging off of your podcast, man. They're stealing the Skynformation and doing their own podcast. There's a guy on there. He did an Alan Collins podcast, and he took that whole Steve Reynolds bit that I did on the road and told the whole story about Alan's guitar and how the guy fixed it up and sold it, and he acted like, you know, he's the one that came up with all that, but that's okay. You know, I mean, he told it right. So,
you know, if you're wanting to do a podcast and you don't have any of your own material, you got to go out and steal it off somebody. I mean, that's, you know, that's kind of like what a cover band is. You know, they don't have their own stuff. They want to play, but they don't have their own stuff, so they got to play other people's stuff. You know, so
but you know, this is the original place to get it from, though. You don't want to get it from those watered down podcasts. This is the real stuff. Like somebody told me earlier that house that Leon had used to be Artemis house. And I said, really? So I asked Craig, and Craig said, no, that ain't true. No. Artemis never lived in that house. So
there's
you never
so
know.
Many people that start rumors and people believe it. And it's all, you know, it's crazy. You know, there's so much misinformation out there about Lynyrd Skynyrd. It's kind of funny.
That's like when they were saying, you know, that's not the tree that Gary hit. And then I talked to Gene Odom, and Gene Odom said Gary hit every damn tree in Jacksonville.
Yeah, Yeah, Joe Crimp knows which tree that was for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, but Gene says it doesn't matter because Gary hit every single tree. If it was close to the road, Gary hit it.
Well, Gene's got something going on down in Jacksonville this June, doesn't he?
Yeah, it's going to be July 29th, actually. Rocking for a Reason. We're helping him out with it, and it's going to be some great bands there. It might end up being kind of like that Whitey's thing. You know, that was a great night, that Whitey's. They had a bunch of different people just getting up on stage and playing, and it's going to be something like that. You're going to have a lot of great guitar players and great acts from Jacksonville. There's going to be a shrimp dinner. I'm going to be posting that on the supportsurvivors.net, and I'm going to be putting the information up for that. But if you go to my Facebook, the Griff Martin Facebook page, some of you people aren't Facebook people, but you can go to the supportsurvivors.net and get all that information. I'm going to be putting that up soon. So July 29th, mark that on your calendar. It's going to be a cool place. I'll have all the information for you, where it is, what time it starts, and how to get tickets and things like that. You can buy them at the gate. But yeah, it's a. You think you can make it down there, Craig? Or you?
I don't think I'm going to be able to make that one. You know, I'm going to go to that thing here, and I'm going to do that convoy here in October 20th. You know, me and Jeff are going to automotive. We're going to get us a Winnebago or something down there, and I mean, there's at least 50 people that have said that they're going to get involved in this, and it's, you know, this is only May, and the convoy is not until October, so we're liable to have a pretty big convoy going on down there. And like I said, I'd like to just deadhead it down there, so we don't have to make any stops. Nobody has to get any hotels or anything, you know, because. Well, for me, it's I think it's a 12-hour drive down there, which is no big deal to me. I drive down to Florida and every now and then it's 12 hours, I think. So, you know, a lot of people can't do 12 hours, so you're just gonna have to arrange it so you have another driver in the car, or do carpools or whatever, and put a bunch of people in cars, because, you know, I'd prefer just deadheading it down there. You know.
Yeah, you know how you do it, Craig. You watch TV the whole way you're driving. Craig, I got in Craig's car with him, and he's watching TV, and I go, "What's this, man?" And he's like, "Oh, what do you want to watch?" And I go, "I don't want to watch anything. I want you to watch the road." So how's that work for you? You know, does it keep your mind busy or what? I mean, I guess.
Well, yeah, I like when I drive down to Florida or whether I'll go to the library. Well, this last time I went down, I got 23 DVDs and put them in. You know, during the daytime, you can't see the screen very good, you know, when the sun's shining wrong. So I put in like Archie Bunker or Seinfeld or something like that. Someday you can just listen to it, you know, and you can you can tell what's going on. But yeah. I watched 3 or 4 movies, and I'm you know, 5 movies. I'm in Florida, you know.
Yeah, by the time you watch 4 or 5 movies, you're there, right?
Oh yeah.
I don't know. I fall asleep to movies in my lazy boy sometimes, so it's still possible. You know? If you got pulled over, I guess you kind of have to hide the little.
Well,
TV
when you're
set.
doing 100 or 110, that kind of keeps you awake, you know.
I know the last time when you came down to my house and we did that concert down here, and then you went and you made it all the way back home, and then you totaled your car out after you got home.
Yeah, 2 days after I got home, I totaled my car.
And what a nice car that was too. I remember it was in my garage and we were looking at it, and I said, "Man, that's a great looking car. It's in great shape." And then little did we know it's in the junkyard now. So Well, people want to join that convoy. They can binge watch the Stoned Roadie show the whole way down, but you won't have enough miles to pull off the whole 74 episodes. You know.
Yeah, we're gonna make, I don't know, 4 or 5 trips on. You know, we're trying to pick a truck stop or some place to stop. And so, probably truck stops, was probably what we'll do. We'll pull into these truck stops, and then people that are wanting to hook up with us, they can, sit there at the truck stop and wait on us, or, that's probably the best way to do it. Truck stops.
And just get a big line, just a convoy, like Burt Reynolds had there, when he was going after the Coors beer.
Well, like I said, we've probably got close to 50 people that want to get involved now. So that's gonna be a pretty large sized convoy,
Yeah.
So,
and then once we get down to Gillsburg, I don't know what they got planned down there, but it's always a really cool thing going on. But Craig is we're actually working on getting Craig to go to the crash site, and you guys saw that last podcast where I went to the crash site. So we've been kind of hacking out a trail for him to get in there so he can go check that out. So I'll videotape that when we get Craig back there, and that'll be kind of cool to watch Craig go through the creek and kind of simulate the same path that Artimus and Ken Peden and Mark Frank took, when they were going to the farmhouse. And then, you guys that haven't seen the recent podcast, and then I interviewed Brenda Martin, who talked about how, the guys came up to her farmhouse and how her husband shot the rifle. But I'm not going to tell you any more about it. You need to go back and watch that. So.
Yeah, we'll try to keep our speed down to just a few miles an hour over the speed limit. But if there's 100 cars going in a convoy, it's gonna be hard for the police to pick out one.
Yeah. Any word on your gator that got stolen, Craig?
No, I'm still looking for it. I haven't turned in the insurance yet. I'm still looking. It's not much of a chance.
Yeah, for those of you that don't know, Craig, he had, I guess, a side-by-side John Deere Gator, and I've ridden in it with him. It was a nice one too, man. That thing was expensive. Craig left it out front there one day with the keys in it, and you heard it start up, right?
Oh yeah. I was sitting in my office, and my friend Larry comes over, and he uses it all the time to do yard work around here. And I just thought it was him starting it up. And so as soon as it started, I got on the phone. I was trying to call Larry, but he didn't answer his phone. But then by the time I got down there, they were gone. I mean, he drove it down there, and they had somebody down there with a trailer all hooked up, and they just right on there. My neighbor saw him. He said, "Man, he come down there in that thing, and they put it on the trailer. They were gone."
Wow.
So.
They probably ground the serial numbers off, and they already got rid of it by now, huh?
Oh, I imagine. Yeah.
Well,
that's a nice one. I just had it detailed too. It was all waxed. It was nice. Oh well.
Yeah. Well, so what else you been up to lately, Craig? You've been staying busy?
I haven't been doing much at all. I loaded up this old video game on my PS4 of this old driving game called Need for Speed, and it was funny because I played that thing all the way through a couple of times. That was 8 or 9 years ago. But I loaded it up and I was trying to play it again. I couldn't remember any of the cheats or anything. I couldn't believe it, Couldn't remember anything from it. Almost like a whole new game.
It's just like this editing software I do for the podcast. If I don't work with it for a couple of weeks, you forget how to do it. It's just the older you get, the harder it is with these computers. Need these young kids in there to help you with it anymore. But how about well, man, let's talk about like a lot of people been approaching you lately about Zach Lane, saying, boy, he sure would look good up on stage there in Gary's place, wouldn't he?
Yeah, they have. On TikTok, I guess Chad was telling me that he's on TikTok. It's just lit up about, Zach would be the perfect replacement for Gary. Get the Yeah, it kind of makes a little sense, get it instead of getting a bunch of old 75-year-old men up there, the new kids ain't gonna get involved in something like that. But you put a bunch of 20-year-olds up there and start a new kids on the block or whatever. Of course, those are still the same guys, but the same kind of theory. But make it group, put it, I don't know, fill it up with a bunch of young kids and start over again.
Well, if Skynyrd were to come out on stage and Zach came out there in place of Gary, I think the crowd would just go crazy. I think
that the crowd would show up just to see a young person like Zach up there replacing him. The second generation Lynyrd Skynyrd or whatever.
I mean,
somebody's going to do it. I mean, when Skynyrd quits playing, somebody is going to try to take that position away as the number one Lynyrd Skynyrd tribute band, and it'd be cool if they could just keep the same one going and just fill it with young talent, Zach and Brandon Miller and oh God, what's the guy's name?
Buddy Crump. Buddy Crump.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Buddy
Fortune
Crump.
Child. That's another phenomenal guitar player. I watched that guy down at Whitey's, and I had not been exposed to Buddy Crump like I thought I had. That guy is a phenomenal guitar player. I mean, slide. He can play slide, anything. Of course, Zach Lane and Brandon Miller, those guys are awesome too. But that Buddy Crump, man, he's got a different style, and he's just a very
weren't they breaking the tops off of beer bottles and making slides?
Yeah, actually, I had the broken top of one bottle in my pocket, and then it cut me, and I had to throw it in the trash. I was going to save it for when Zach becomes famous. Of course, I might not be alive, but but I was going to hold on to it, and say, yeah, this is. I think you can even see the video that Zach was playing slide with that broken. It was I think it was it might have been a Coors Light. It wasn't a Bud Light. Because if it was, I'd have to get rid of that video, I think, maybe, huh? But yeah, Zach, he would look so awesome up there on that stage taking Gary's place. And I think if he came out and he was playing something really cool, I think everybody would just look at him like, wow, that's Gary. Because I'd say from 20 feet away, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. But the only difference would be, he would be too young.
Well, Zach, he was with us down there at Gary's funeral. And he went up and he was with Chad, and they went up and talked to Dale, and Dale was kind of freaked out because he looked like a young Gary, and kind of freaked her out, I mean, it was.
Yeah, cool. I heard she said, Zach, you're beautiful, she just loved, and she was probably reminiscing back when, they were young, and because Zach's, he's 21 years old, and, he does look like Gary, and it's not just the way he looks. He can play note for note, all of Gary's stuff.
He copies Steve and Alan very well as well too.
Yeah, he can play all the Skynyrd parts, and of course, I think that he could probably play anything. I mean, if you go and check him out on TikTok, you're going to see the guys are just phenomenal. I actually hooked him up with Tammy, the girl that I met out in Muscle Shoals. I told him, I said, you need to call Tammy. And, Tammy, that Will McFarland, that guy that I interviewed, and he was Jackson in the band with Jackson Brown and Bonnie Raitt. And we're going to try to hook him up with that guy maybe and see if he can't get him doing some session work out there at Muscle Shoals. That might get his foot in the door for something, So we're going to start working on that. But Zach's a good kid, talented kid, and we're wanting to see him go somewhere. Same with Brandon, Slicks and Revolver. I don't know too much what's going on with that guitar raffle. You know anything about that, Craig? That guitar raffle?
No, I don't. The guy called me the other day and and I think I talked about it in the last podcast. Maybe but he was from Chagrin, up in near Cleveland, and he comes down here to play golf occasionally. And he was asking me. He said he wants to buy 3 of those tickets off of Brandon for that raffle, and he called me this morning, and he said he hadn't heard from him yet. And I told him, I said I didn't think he was really actively pursuing that at the moment. I think they're trying to wait to see what actually they're going to come up with for a monument down there, because I think they've changed their mind on the more marble statue or any of that. It's kind of costly, you know.
But they are still giving the guitar away down there.
Yeah, as far as I know. Yeah, I haven't heard much about it. Yeah.
Well, if you guys have any questions about that, just email me at supportsurvivors.net, and if you have like something you want to buy a ticket for concerning like that Rockin' for a Reason or Brandon Miller's guitar giveaway, just send me an email. Also got some pretty cool stuff here too. You can pick up. Let me show you. Got some posters that I made up of the band. That's like a kind of like a Dean Kilpatrick caricature drawing. Got some of those. Got some stickers of the same thing. You can actually put that on your windshield, and they're somewhat weatherproof vinyl. Got the old Hell House poster. That's the painting that I painted, and it's got the Hell House on it, and also got some stickers. So you guys email me, support survivors.net, and I'll hook you up with some of those. Just send me an email, and I can hook you up with some of that stuff. But yeah, so we got some cool things coming up in July. We got the Rockin' for a Reason. October things happening, and we're going to be working on getting some more guests on the show. I haven't heard from Estes. Estes, man, if you're watching, where you at, brother? Right?
Yeah, I've called him a couple of times. He hasn't called me back. He usually calls me back right away. He must be busy doing something.
Yeah, so if you guys have a guest that we've had on in the past and you want to get them back on, let us know, and any of your favorites, and we'll give them a call and say, hey, the fans want you back on the podcast, so let us know, and we'll start working on that. But yeah, it's 74, podcast 74, so there's a lot of guests. We've had some really cool ones on there. Maybe we'll do like a best of sometime. We'll just gather up a bunch of people and make one podcast.
Yeah, well, Kenny Peden, he we can have him back on. I go back on the analytics, and I see the one that he did was like the 5th most watched one. Kenny Peden did, and then we got Andy Tanis we could get back on. We got Pops we could get back on, and then we got
even Chad, your son Chad, he's fun to get on there. We probably ought to try to get Lee back on there again. You know, we never got to finish up with Lee. We'll start working on that. We had some bad technical issues when he was on.
And what's Gary, what's his last name from a couple weeks ago?
There's so many of them, I can't even remember myself.
That guy that was Alan's buddy, the guy that was so funny a couple weeks ago.
You talking about Owings?
Owings, yeah.
Mike Owings. Yeah, I call him, I aggravate him. I call him Owens, Owens.
Owings, yeah.
That aggravates him. He said, no, it's Owings. I think that guy probably acts just like Alan did. You know, he's like a carbon copy of Alan. He's a
Yeah, he
wild
called me. He called me a couple weeks ago and said he really enjoyed being on the show.
Yeah, he's got some great stories, like that story with the snake, that cobra that was in Alan's backyard. And yeah, if you guys are watching the podcast for the first time, you got to go back, man. It's just some really great stories that we have on there. And as far as getting new people on, we're always working on that. And then on the road with Griff Martin, send me some suggestions on the road. Griff Martin, supportsurvivors.net, and tell me where you want me to go, and I'll go. So
I've had at least 10 people call me and say that they happened to watch one of the Stone Roadie shows, and then they went back and watched every single one. I mean,
yeah, I don't know how they did it, but
yeah, that's wild.
Especially like the one with Crimp that's 3 hours long. Some of the people watched them twice,
Oh, yeah, one guy said I watched it twice. Another guy said I watched it 3 times. But yeah, we've done quite a few of them that were touching 22 hours, over 2 hours. And
yeah, we probably ought to have like a 100th episode celebration, maybe, huh? We get up around 100, do some kind of a celebration, maybe bring in a lot of people that we had in the past and bring them in and do something like that. I don't know. Yeah.
That guy that teaches people how to do podcasts, he calls himself Mr. Beast. Yeah, he said once you do 100 of them, come and if you're really serious about it, and you want to get better at it. He said once you do 100 of them, come and talk to me. And it seems crazy that you'd have to do 100 of these to figure out what you're doing, but trust me, that's what it takes.
Yeah. I know when we first started, there was a while there, Craig wasn't even on the podcast because, he was like pissed off about something. He was afraid.
That guy said once you do 12, you'll finally start figuring out what you're doing. And I did my 12th one and I still didn't have a clue. So I think, I kind of studied up on it a little bit before I did them, started doing them, and then they said, "Oh, after 12 you'll figure it out." But hell, after 12, I still didn't have a clue. Still don't have a clue. But I've gone back and watched some of the earlier ones, and I got to admit, at least I'm getting better at this, But people say, "Oh, you do great," and I just, I don't know. All I do is just, pull stories out of these closets up in my head, And so once in a while, a door will come open and creak and
oh yeah, and I still talk to Craig all the time, and I'll be talking to him. He'll tell me something. I'll go, "How come you never brought that up before? That's a really cool story." And he'll say, "Oh well, I didn't think it was that great, but it's like a great story, like what you just told me about what Leon wanted to name. If he ever quit and want to start his own band." What did he want to call it? The Mixed Nuts?
Mixed Nuts, yeah. Mixed Nuts, and then name the album Assorted Nuts.
Yeah, so there's still a bunch of stories.
He wanted me to be the road manager of Mixed Nuts, yeah.
I couldn't imagine, Leon. What was he going to sing? He sang. Leon did sing a lot. I've heard him in recordings sing, and he had a good voice. Yeah. And then even I think it was Mike Owings told me that Alan, there was a song, I can't remember the name of the song. It was Dire Straits song, I believe it was, and he said Alan played and sang, and he said Alan sang like a bird, man. He said Alan could sing. So a lot of people don't know. Did you ever hear Alan sing, Craig?
I don't think so. No, maybe I don't know. Probably I don't. Didn't mean nothing to me if I did. I don't know.
Well, Ronnie, I guess he was happy when Steve Gaines came along, took a little pressure off of him. Yeah, but Steve, he had all his own material and he sang really well. So that was kind of cool. It's just a shame that it ended before, they got all those great hits out there they would have had. There ain't no telling where they'd have gone. But yeah, just the only singer in Lynyrd Skynyrd mainly was Ronnie until Steve came along. But yeah, and then, you'd see some backup. Leon doing some backup. JoJo would do some backup. But
my green screen here this week that I'm using, this green screen behind me, that's the if you ever see the sunshade, a few months ago they were advertising these sunshades you put in your windshield to shade the sun out of them. That's what one of these is. Just took a picture of it.
Yeah, it looks like somebody drew Ronnie's hand on the steering wheel there. That's pretty cool. That is pretty cool. Well, Craig, I don't know, man. I ain't got anything else other than, you guys want to keep an eye out for that Saturday, July 29th, Rockin' for a Reason. We got the convoy coming up in October. So you guys hang in there, and we're going to have some more guests on, and I can't think of anything else to talk about. How about you, Craig?
No, I didn't have a lot to talk about this week. Ain't been doing much this week, so.
All right. Well, I guess we'll wrap it up, and we hope you guys enjoy that new Stone Roadie version with Bill Major that he played at the beginning there. So we really appreciate that guy giving us our theme song. So I guess we'll wrap her up, Craig.
All righty then. Yeah, I don't even have to sing here at the end because Bill took care of that to me. So all I got to say is happy trails to you until we meet again. Happy trails to you, and may the good Lord take a liking to you. And until next week, this is the host, Craig Reed, of the Stoned Roadie Show, and my host, Mr. Griff Martin, the rocket scientist. And we're out of here. Action cut.
We'll see you next time.
Happy trails